Hello, BC.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am really good. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. This is fantastic.
No, pleasure is all mine. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am not a conventional artist. What is a conventional artist? I understand that. When I was a kid, we had a big family. I was pretty lonely sometimes, and I would kind of find my place inside my head. And I didn't draw until I was, let's say, high school. But I had an extremely active imagination. I would just see movies and see all kinds of images in my head as a very, very little kid, and it fed me. We would go on car trips, and all I would need was a broken plastic toy, and I could see an entire movie in my head with this little whatever I found that I could see images with it. I do that to this day. There was a point where I was older, and I would hide it because it became a security blanket. I was embarrassed by it. What I didn't realize was it was kind of a rudder for my imagination. It gave me something to focus on. Just like a child would play with an action figure, but I would go as far as to, well, I'm just going to take the arm off this action figure and throw out the action figure because the arm is far more exciting to me because now I can envision all the other things. This muscular arm, like from a He-Man, could now be Superman. It can now be Batman. It can now be anybody I want it to be. And that's far more valuable than a He-Man. My siblings would look at me like a very strange kid. They'd get upset with me. They would throw out these things I would collect so I can see what I was seeing because they didn't understand it. They thought it was strange. And it is strange. I guess it's a little weird. I'd be so happy with it. I would take it like someone would bring a video game. To this day, I don't play video games. I wasn't drawing necessarily like I do now, but I was definitely living in a world of my head.
Do you read a lot?
I'm not a reader. I'm an 80s kid. I didn't know it, but I think I might have been dyslexic. The school systems we were in, back then, I think school honors a lot of the people who are good with the math and everything else, but what I was interested in. I love stories. I love storytelling. I'm not a reader, though. You get me to fall asleep pretty quickly. Now, give me an audiobook, I'm there all day long, but my brain wants to orchestrate, it wants to see things. I'm also terrible with names and dates and things like that. I could tell you all my art influences, but I would forget half of their names. And these are heroes to me. It's just how my brain is wired. It's part of my imposter syndrome. My brain doesn't absorb things that way. What my brain absorbs is the work itself, and I take little things that are valuable to me and maybe nobody else, but I see things that make me interested in patterns and how to work harder. And every time I come out of a museum, I just think to myself, I can work harder. As far as school and things like that goes, I didn't even draw in school, but I was a sponge. I love film, photography. I even love fashion. When I
Mm.
tell my wife I do my color study when she goes clothes shopping because I like to see the fashionable color combinations. Ooh, that brown or that tan is very nice with that pink. Very interesting. I tend to absorb a lot from non traditional sources. There are things that chefs have said that inspired me so much that I can apply to what I do because it's all the same well. It's all the same place. Creatives, they're all doing the same thing. They're all exploring. They're all going into that cave and seeing what they can find. The best artists understand that the white canvas or the microphone you're about to sing into or the audience that's about to receive what you're doing, there's a relationship there. So you really only have about 50% control. And if you can release the rest of the control to the cosmos, to whatever happens, it's like this amazing relationship. And suddenly I don't surf, but I love this analogy. You only do half the work. The wave, you have to have a relationship that wave. You have to feel what the wave wants to do, I'm sure, than getting on that board. You're not in control of everything. Every white piece of paper I start, it's the most exciting time for me. Let's see what happens. That's exciting. I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm going to start drawing. And by the end of first session, I may have a completely different idea or plan. I try and keep that excitement up To do that, I need to abandon my ego and a lot of things that feel like should be doing. I've had people say, "Hey, I love your art," but it's ridiculous in the sense that you don't think you'll ever sell any of this, do you? You don't think anyone's going to put this on their wall. I don't take offense. I absolutely understand. I guess how my mind works. I don't want to give anybody a hint at what I was thinking. It's all there in the drawing, and I'm more excited about the viewer coming up with their own story. It can be anything you want it to be. And in fact, I try really hard not to answer any question. Of course, there's something going on in my mind, but it's ever fluid. And I'm trying to invite the viewer to do what I did when I was 5 in a car with a little He Man arm. Come up with your own story, come up with your own tale. When I was a kid, the most exciting thing to me was when the new wave of action figures came out. And whatever that is to anybody, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, Transformers, those kind of things. And I'm not a reader, as I've said. My visual imagination did all the heavy lifting. So I would see these new action figures with all the great art on these little boards to sell the figure. I would not want to read the back. I want to come up with my own character in my mind. So I always loved that. I found when I started drawing, I really didn't give much thought to backstory and what's happening. When I saw an N.C. Wyeth painting that I knew was from Treasure Island, when I would see those, they're comic books. They're brilliant, just gorgeous, and almost cartoon looking. They're fine art paintings, really. So your imagination just goes crazy, and you realize. So that's what I'm trying to do with my work.
Mm.
Trying to not give you too long of an answer. I'm so sorry,
No, it's
but
fine. It's fine. Just that I'm afraid that I ain't gonna ask you anything because you already gave me an answer.
yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so
No,
sorry.
why? You are you. You do you.
I am not a conventional artist. That is not putting down convention. I applied for art school and they probably rightfully said, well, no thanks. But I chose to think, you know what, that might have been the best thing for me because I am fragile, a little spark of flame that can easily go out. What I've heard from a lot of folks who go to amazing art schools is they're breaking people down for the first year or two so they can build them up, like the army.
I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
it, and I hate it. I still do.
I have a friend who went to art school, and she said that's what happened to her and really crushed her spirit. And I don't have much judgment on it, but what I do know is that would have happened to me. My little flame in my heart is extremely fragile, and I protect it a lot. I protect it from a lot of different things. I don't want it to be compromised. It's a very special little private island for me that
Yeah.
no one gets on. I don't really invite a lot of people. My wife is the closest person to have a conversation with me where she'll ask me specifically what I'm thinking, and I'll give her something. Praise will hurt that place. I try and tell people be just as cautious of someone breaking your spirit, but also blowing it up positively. I've had many people go, "Oh, you should do more of that." Well, what does that mean? You take that little seed with you and you go, "Oh, the next drawing won't be that pure white wave that I want it to be. It'll be polluted with this idea if I let it to go, oh, well, maybe that person had a point. Maybe I should do another one like that." It's dangerous. I struggle with all those things.
I don't know how many, but most of my heroes, painters, never finished any academies, or they were expelled from academies, or they quit
Mm,
by themselves. Picasso said, "These people will never teach me anything." Salvador Dali was, I think, expelled from 2
mm,
academies. Van Gogh was never accepted. He was accepted on 1 academy. They had him for a year and said, he doesn't know how to draw. He needs to do first year again. And before they made that decision, he already went somewhere else in the world. I'm
yeah.
sure that in 200 years, people who see contemporary art today, I'm sure that they will have opinion about it as we have opinion about Van Gogh 200 years ago. Time is the best catalyst for the art. Unfortunately, those who live through it will never know. I want to educate people about history of art from cave paintings through today. It will take me maybe 10 years, 20 years, but I want to do it. However, my question for you is, why don't you name your own paintings and drawings?
I feel that anyone way I can open the space for the viewer in their imagination is helping the piece. If I title something, like the title of a song will give you sometimes a hint of what is this song about? Well, that's a little more information. Now they can be vague and things like that. I understand that. I'm really fascinated with the image doing all the lifting. I'm a big fan of framing stories. I'm a writer. When I used to see Frank Frazetta work, Frank Frazetta, an incredible painter. I don't know much about anything, but he was an amazing illustrator, painter who did the classic Conan the Barbarian covers, paintings for the paperback books and things like that. He was a pulp painter, an incredible artist. We've all probably seen pieces of him and not know it. For my kind of brain, I can sit and wonder about it for a week. I love it. When I'm done wondering about it, I can wonder about it again in a whole other story. But when someone gives me a story behind it, when I read the comic book, could be amazing. That's great. I got that story. But I really love art that asks more questions than answers them. Titles can sometimes help that. Sometimes title can, well, what actually hurt that, where it's I don't want to guide you in any which way. I just want the image to be the image. So I have a number system, and that's how I've been working for years.
But how would you describe your style and how did it evolve over time? What is the process?
That's a good question. When I was 15, 16, that's a guess, I creatively started branching out. That's when I started playing piano and writing songs. But I also sat down to the kitchen table and it's as simple as draw a superhero. No one in particular, just anatomy and things like that. I come from a family that has real creative people, and I have an older brother who's a painter. He started drawing early. But as a lot of people with siblings understand, what happens is siblings tend to claim that space. Well, I'm going to do this kind of secretly. And because he was already off and running, I felt like there's a big shadow over you. So I just kind of secretly at first just sat down at the kitchen table and just wanted to see if I could do it without looking at anything. And I couldn't. Of course you can't. You have to train your mind to conceptualize shapes and lines and dimensions. You need some kind of study, and I learned that quickly. And we were big fans of comic books. I started looking at those. And just like an art student, their freshman year, what they tell you is go to the museum. Start drawing the painting you're seeing. Just paint. So the best thing to do if you're going to learn how to dance is you got to get out there with someone who knows how to dance and dance with them and see if you can even do it. So like many young kids, you look at your comic books, you look at the things you're interested in, and you start to see if you can do it. And it was hard. And I remember thinking to myself, well, just like anything, I have to decide if I'm going to spend the time to do this. Very quickly, I tried really hard to get away from copying anything. And I did fairly quickly. And I got into the mentality that everything is just a sketch. Don't start anything thinking it's going to be the Mona Lisa. When you start sketching, you can't do anything wrong. So your brain starts to relax. And some of my best drawings were sketches at first. In a meeting at work, I was sketching and I would do something because my brain was relaxed and not worried about messing up. And I would realize, oh, that's a lesson. All of it is your brain. And if you're tense and if you're holding that pencil too tightly, or this piece has to be a brilliant, I can't work like that. I can't work like that. I have a bad relationship with any kind of pressure for my art. That's why I really didn't go into illustration or things like that, because you're constantly under the gun as far as trying to perform and get paid for your work. And I have the utmost respect for those who can do that. That's amazing.
I cannot do
But
that.
it's amazing to me. And the best out there have incredible talents and nothing but admiration. My very next thought, very early on, was I don't want to look like everybody else. You go to school and kids would go, "Hey, check out my drawing," and you go, "Yeah, that's a comic book. You're drawing just like that comic book artist that we all know and love. I have that comic at home. I know what you're doing." That's not a knock. I was doing it too at a very early age, but at a certain point, you need to start developing your own style. And that takes years. I think the hardest thing for any artist is to try and find your signature. is trying to find something that feels genuinely you and not pretentiously. The more you are yourself, the farther away you get from conventional things, the more naturally that's going to happen. In that world, you're used to seeing a lot of different artists and following artists from title to title, and you're starting to see the differences at a very young age between people. Oh, he's doing Captain America now. I can just tell from the cover. I didn't even need to look. I know that artist. He's just drawing Captain America like everybody else, but my eye is starting to see that he has a very interesting style, and not just in comic books, of course. I think at a very early age, I was lucky to understand that and keep an eye on that. Also, I will say my weaknesses are extremely powerful. This is a concept that I think more people should talk about. Mike Mignola, the artist for Hellboy, he said the reason I started that comic book is because I didn't want to draw cars and telephone booths and a bunch of things that an illustrator has to learn how to do when they're doing a Spider-Man comic book. You're drawing a city every day. He wanted to develop his own world where he didn't have to, okay, I got to spend all afternoon drawing this phone booth or drawing, something that I'm so bored with. I really understood what he was saying. And an artist's weaknesses, you should keep an eye on them and try and practice them and work with them. But at the same time, they're also just as much going to inform your work as your strengths, whatever you're doing. And not to look at them as a weakness, but think of it as, oh, my limitation. I think art thrives best with limitations. I think you're going to do better work if you have 3 colors versus 50. If you're really in this to be a creative, nothing will stop you. So if you have a ketchup packet and a newspaper and that's all you have to paint with, you'll paint with it. You'll probably get some pretty interesting things out of it.
You kind of answer my 3 questions that I want to ask you already. What is your creative process, or what do you explore the most, or what is the painting process for you? But you already explained that now. So I want to, what is the most challenging aspect of doing art?
Oh, yeah, that's the big question. The big questions you can only answer personally. My big challenge in art is trying to find the balance between something I want to see and something that may surprise me through my pencil, through my hand. I have things, every brain has things they want to see. Ooh, I like that. I love a bald character. I love a certain kind of hair flow for characters. I have certain things that I indulge in, but you have to be careful not to be self-indulgent. But you also don't want those things to trap you. And you think you're stretching out super far, and you realize you're not stretching that far out, only in inches when you thought you were stretching out in miles. But that's okay. At least you're trying. And those are the things that I pause with. But at the same time, trying to remind myself, just start drawing and see what happens.
Hmm.
And when a decision like that comes up, and if you're bored with the decision that you want to make, your brain wants to see something, but you're bored with it in a sense because you've done it so many times, well, just sit, put the pencil down, and think. Don't be afraid to think. Just think, and maybe there's another way to do it. So I'm constantly keeping balance between those things.
How much do you give to intuition? How much is emotional? And how much is knowledge of drawing when you produce your work?
I think it varies from piece to piece. I think after I do a piece that was very complex for me, took a lot out of me, my instinct for the very next one is to, okay, I've been in class all day. I'm going to go to recess. And after I do something completely free, like you're saying, where your brain just, I don't really even care what I draw. No, you always care what you draw, but I mean, I really just want to see what fun things happen. The challenges aren't there. Once I do that, and sometimes those are the best drawings. So the next drawing will be something a lot more complicated. I tend to do that a lot. I bite off a lot to see if I can get there, to see if my patience is holding up. It's not just the pencil that we all work, it's your patience, right? And it's your attitude towards it. And most of it is your mental approach. My emotional approach is always fun. Fun is underrated. Fun isn't talked about enough. I had a friend who his daughter did not want to play the cello. She hated the cello. And he told me, I don't know what to do. We've spent all this money on lessons. And I told him, have you tried showing her contemporary music, rock bands that are using the cello in their band? He said, no. I said, go ask what she likes to listen to and then find out, see if that can be applied, what you're trying to teach her, because she has no application for it. She's not having fun. Have fun. If you're not having fun, what's the point? Is a voice in your head stopping you from what you want to be or do and not really even knowing it? Be it an old teacher, a big brother or sister, a father or mother who says you can't do that, you can't do this. Those things I work very hard at not letting in because they can cripple you. And don't be real quick, don't be afraid of a small little sketch. I have more sketches on a post-it note that are more exciting to me, or some of my favorite pieces, than big white canvas that is supposed to be big and important. I think pretension is very dangerous in art. I'm babbling. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I know so many people who quit drawing or painting or doing art because they had a bad experience with teachers. They didn't made it fun. Is art primarily about self-expression, communication, about beauty, about ugliness, about messaging, about something entirely else that I cannot think of right now? Is it about ethical obligation to engage in social issues? What is art for?
I love that you're asking the big questions that I can't possibly answer. The only thing I could say is if we took the word art and exchanged it with a person, what are
Yes.
people for? Are we supposed to communicate? Are we supposed to express? That's how big art is, because it's another. Oh, it's everything. It's such a big question. There's so many ways to be with art, to be in it, to express it, to, uh, you know, questions of, what is a craft versus art, and what, you can get into so many layers of that question, and it's beautiful. The more we try and categorize these things and make a music store where everything's labeled. How do I find this? Well, it's not really soul or funk or country, but we start blending all those things, and we have to blend those things or we're never going to get anything new. We're never going to get anything exciting for the next year. We have to keep blending everything. And that is that's the human experience. I think there are people who are artists who don't even think they're artists because those questions are so heavy. My worry is it'll crush little people, little birds, little precious souls out there.
But what is art for you?
What is art for me? Oh, thank you. Art, that's a lot easier. Art for me is going into the dark cave. Art for me is exploration. The internet is full of how to do's, how to draw, how to paint, how to draw a certain hand for people. If you're trying to, hands are difficult. Everybody, come, I'll show you how to draw a hand. I'll show you this, I'll show you that. And it's wonderful. It's great. Education is great. And there are a lot of shortcuts out there. For me personally, this isn't for everybody, but for me personally, since I sat down at that kitchen table to draw, it's always been about, I just want to see if I can do it. And to this day, I just want to see if I can do it. I want to see what happens. The question is more important to me than the answer. I want to see how I would do it. When you approach things that way, you're going to be yourself truly in your work, then therefore you'll be unique. When a kid gets a video game, they don't want to go to YouTube and learn how to win Mario Brothers. Show me all the secrets. No, I want to go discover the secrets. I want to go figure it out. I want to go play the game. I want to go have my adventure. Look at your art as an adventure, not as something to crush you, not as something to be intimidated by, not as something to tug and pull and argue with. It's your friend. It's you. It's everything you want it to be if you let it. To be successful. I don't understand what that even means. A success to me is you finished your drawing and you're proud of it. Just for me, art is exploration. For me, art is let's see what happens.
We invented art before we invented door. And I'm trying to tell that people
I love that.
before, yeah. If you would have the chance to have a dinner or a beer or walk, whatever, with somebody who you admire, a painter, an artist, or even from a fictional novel, who would it be and why?
Jim Henson, the Muppeteer who did the Muppets, Kermit the Frog. I love his mind. Another one would be George Lucas from Star Wars. I love minds that think very differently. I think those minds that are so fun and full of imagination and why not, that sense of why not is so important to me.
I will have to tell you that I don't like Star Wars.
Oh, that's okay. That's all
And I
right.
will tell you
That's all
one
right.
reason why.
Okay.
When I was a kid and I watched the Star Wars for the first time,
Yes.
and I saw Luke Skywalker destroys the whole planet, I thought that he was an idiot to do so because he killed so many people and everybody cheered him on. And as a kid, I was very upset by that. And I said, I don't like Star Wars anymore. Because Luke Skywalker killed millions of people on that Death Star planet.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
there's bad people on there, but also there was a cleaner. There was somebody who was making food in cafeteria who has nothing to do with the stormtrooper.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
You're a very sweet man.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm very bitter and cynical.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. My next question would be, how would you like to be remembered?
I want to be worth remembering, but forgotten anyway. I don't put much stock in it. I hope I'm a positive source. I hope I'm a positive person, and I hope I'm remembered just with from my friends and family, just with a smile. As far as my work and things like that, I want to be an ambassador for fun. I'm in control of nothing. I
Yeah.
could have a fire tomorrow, and all my art could go up, and I could be crushed about that, or I can just go, you know what? I'm going to go draw a new drawing. I try and keep that perspective.
Most of my art is destroyed.
Oh, it's so sad. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
thousands of drawings and paintings.
Oh, I'm so
Thousands.
sorry.
Well,
It is a wonderful day and age where you can get these things on the internet, and
but it's not the same.
it's not the same. No.
Most of them I have pictures of. I can show it, but most of them are gone forever. Doesn't matter
Oh,
now. Doesn't matter.
oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
so
fine. It's
sorry.
fine. It's fine. Anyway, how people can find you?
Thank you. Right now I'm just on Instagram, BC Foster 77, and I am a musician. I have some albums to. If you want to download them, it's bcfostermusic.bandcamp.com. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. I know I'm nothing like anyone else you've probably spoken to on this. You're doing a wonderful service, and I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you so much for inviting me. It means a lot to me. I have terrible imposter syndrome. I couldn't believe when you reached out, but I'm very glad you did. You're a very sweet, intelligent, and a wonderful person. I'm glad to now know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's finish on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.